The Fever, as you mentioned, took on Brazil back in Iowa. Caitlin's logo shot. I mean, she outdid she logoed the logo. Now they got to put a new logo down. And so does everybody else. The ratings for this game were 1.28 million. The game was on ESPN. It peaked at 1.6, and she only played like 18 minutes. Wow. So the Caitlin Clark effect is back.
What would happen if one of the greatest basketball players ever saw the WNBA's most talented young athlete being singled out? Sue Bird's shocking comments will teach you through questionable tactics. Alyssa Thomas's actions against Caitlin Clark have fundamentally altered the basketball world. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a professional athlete face the kind of discrimination that Caitlin Clark has experienced? Sue Bird's observations, however, the Phoenix Mercury game has drastically altered her opinion of the WNBA. This aspect of Sue Bird's perspective devastates Alyssa Thomas. Sue Bird is exactly where Caitlin Clark is right now. Sue Bird was the top player in a league with incredible athleticism from 1982 to 1986. Her opponents tried to physically intimidate her since they couldn't match her extraordinary basketball intellect. Sue Bird did, however, draw attention to this crucial point, which makes Alyssa Thomas's reputation noteworthy. Sue Bird is conscious of the difference between her experiences with Clark at the championship level and her observations of competitive basketball. She remarked, "It was the most cowardly act I've seen on a basketball court in many years." You heard properly, yes.
Takes us to Indiana, which I think everyone agrees right now has gone from, a team that made the playoffs last year, lost in the first round. They were building all these young pieces, of course, Caitlin Clark, to now an immediate contender with all the moves that they've made.
Sue Bird saw the footage of Alyssa Thomas shoving Clark from behind while she tried to cope with getting stabbed. She was one of the few persons in basketball history who truly replied quickly and aggressively in the eye point. This woman knew exactly what true competitive fire looked like because she had faced well-known opponents. But even she was able to understand that Alyssa Thomas's behavior was unacceptable in terms of sportsmanship and competitive integrity throughout her remarkable career. But listen to what Sue Bird has to say about the timing of that shove. Alyssa Thomas is utterly heartbroken by the realization. Before we continue, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's return to the story. The basketball player raised an issue that many fans had been thinking about, but nobody with her level of fame had the courage to do so. Making crude comments about someone when they are completely naked and not looking is not the same. Sue Bird emphasized that her time was regarded as one of the most physically taxing periods in women's basketball history while playing defense at the championship level. You behaved like a predator when you disagreed with someone without waiting for their back to turn. Instead, you faced them head-on like a warrior. And that's exactly what Sue Bird found so repugnant about Alyssa Thomas's horrible actions. However, Sue Bird's remarks have completely destroyed Alyssa Thomas's reputation. Alyssa Thomas's pathetic reaction. The incident infuriated the legendary basketball player. Instead of acknowledging that, Alyssa Thomas might have overreached herself or expressed regret when she falsely claimed that the media and fans were unfairly criticizing her. "Damned if I do, damned if I don't," she declared. But Sue Bird is even more incensed after hearing such comments. Cheryl Miller, one of the game's champions and legends, claims that genuinely excellent competitors always take full responsibility for their actions, especially when those actions could put another player in grave risk. It reminded her of athletes who secretly knew they couldn't, she said. She made the decision to compete at the highest level after seeing Alyssa Thomas play the victim and avoid criticism. As a result, they found more questionable ways to affect the game. In other words, because Alyssa Thomas lacks it. Sue Bird was successful in portraying her as a mediocre basketball player with real abilities to match greater potential. Player who engages in dishonest behavior. Sue Bird now emphasizes the remarkable qualities of Caitlin Clark. Analysis: this is just remarkable. Clark possesses the same unique qualities that made her a top basketball player. Sue Bird believes that the greatest basketball IQ in history, unexplained clutch shooting skills, and, most importantly, a heavenly vision to make everyone around her better. However, being a follower of basketball ethics, she also discovers something that actually troubles her. This young athlete has a lot of potential and needs to keep going. Keep an eye out for cheap shots and filthy approaches rather than focusing only on gratifying her endless wishes. Basketball potential. Sue Bird claims that Alyssa Thomas's approach exemplifies all that is wrong with certain players' choice to play Clark instead of attempting to outwork or match her emotional talent level. Her dedication and preparation put her on the court. The reality that when she is most vulnerable, she is physically mistreated. According to Sue Bird, this is the worst basketball competition she has ever seen. But as a result, Sue Bird's contentious comments were being discussed in the basketball community. Sue Bird compared Clark's predicament to her own experiences with physical intimidation at work, but she wasn't hesitant to call attention to anything that offers the appropriate context and supports Clark. Her situation, she pointed out that Clark, who is only 22 years old, is going through even more adversity than the majority of athletes go through in their lives. She also has the responsibility of becoming the unquestionable face of women's basketball. But Sue Bird's absurd remarks about Alyssa Thomas's chances in the league are currently circulating on social media. Sue Bird claims that if the WNBA allows women like Alyssa Thomas to chase superstars without facing repercussions, it sends the message that mediocre players can use unethical methods to remain relevant rather than improving their actual basketball talents. She claims that this creates a dangerous precedent that may deter athletes who are increasing the bar for the league. Sue Bird even claimed that when these actions are not adequately penalized, the league's young players who watch from home are deceived. She believes that watching the WNBA should educate kids about commitment, skill, and sportsmanship rather than how to pick bad opponents. Despite these challenges, Sue Bird's prediction was perhaps the most significant part of her entire presentation regarding Clark's possibilities. She asserted that Clark was sculpted by adversity and that every cheap shot, cunning move, and attempt to intimidate her only made her more determined to prove her superiority via skill. Sue Bird compared Clark's situation to her own freshman year, when opponents constantly put her endurance to the test. The distinction, she pointed out, is that Clark is dealing with this behavior in addition to the extraordinary media attention and demands that come with being the most marketable player in WNBA history. For this reason, Sue Bird's assistance to Clark is essential. She is defending more than just a gifted athlete. She is standing up for basketball's fundamental integrity. In her view, Caitlin Elizabeth Clark embodies every quality that makes basketball special, including talent, vision, class, and competitiveness. Athletes like Alyssa Thomas, in her opinion, have everything that may be detrimental to the sport. The veteran basketball player proved that the WNBA is in a precarious position. They have two options. Either they use dishonest strategies to stay relevant, enabling superstars like Clark to reach their full potential and improve the league as a whole, or they keep allowing poorer players to shield and spotlight their best players. Sue Bird made it very evident that the league's future will depend on the choice made. But everyone is arguing about this. Will the WNBA follow suit? Will they continue to allow athletes like Alyssa Thomas to utilize questionable methods to harm the league's brand, or will they follow Sue Bird's advice to keep Caitlin Clark safe? Let's continue the conversation in the space provided for comments below. What are your thoughts on Sue Bird's harsh critique of Alyssa Thomas's behavior? Do you think she's being too critical, or do you think her worries are totally legitimate? More importantly, do you believe the WNBA will eventually move to protect its biggest star? Please leave your thoughts in the space provided for comments below. I have read them all in order to see more analysis. For anything like this that breaks through the clutter and clarifies what's truly happening in basketball, be sure to press the subscribe button. Press the button to activate the warning bell. Caitlin might be affected by Sue Bird's divisive comments. Clark's WNBA circumstances. The basketball community is monitoring this issue. Ignoring one item gets harder. As the story progresses, discussions are no longer restricted to a single game or a single flagrant foul, or a single contentious incident has to do with women's basketball's future, the standards the league hopes to maintain, and how its top players are handled when they are in the public eye. Few athletes have ever had to cope with the kind of expectations that Caitlin Clark did before joining the WNBA. Millions of spectators watch every game she plays. Every move she makes is examined from every perspective. Every success is acknowledged, and every failure garners media coverage. That's what it means to be among the most well-known figures in modern basketball. In the meanwhile, veterans from all throughout the league continue to compete at the top level, bringing years of experience, perseverance, and pride to every match. The WNBA wants to make sure that intense competitiveness never leads to harmful or unnecessary play. Fans seek rivalries and demand intensity. They want respect, equity, and stability in addition to real basketball. Since no one understands what it's like to perform under pressure, Cheryl Miller's remarks have generated much discussion because she is an A. Throughout her incredible career, Sue Bird faced some of the most fearsome opponents and defenders in women's basketball history. However, her lesson was about sustaining the games rather than just being tough. Integrity and ensuring that basketball skill, rather than controversy, remains the major priority. Whether you fully agree with Cheryl Miller's point of view or think the situation has been overstated, there's no doubting that her remarks have sparked debate. What should happen when the league supporters, pundits, and former players are still at odds on whether the top players should be the focal point of physical play and media figures? EO authorities should be more stringent. Should the league impose more severe sanctions? Or is this just a typical aspect of playing basketball professionally? Everyone appeared to respond. A different approach. Caitlin Clark's response is unquestionable. Her concentration has not wavered on basketball rather than allowing physical defense, controversy, or criticism to define her career. She continues to compete, show up, and demonstrate why so many people think she is the sport's future. Her perseverance is one of the primary reasons her followers continue to support her. The WNBA is becoming obsolete. Pay attention. Television numbers are skyrocketing, stadia are filled, and social media debates are growing every day. And new audiences are discovering women's basketball for the first time. As the season goes on, these situations affect not just a particular player or team, but also how the league is perceived internationally. Each game will gain more significance. Every game that Caitlin Clark participates in will be closely watched. Every controversial play will be analyzed. Every official ruling will be contested. Every game will also add to the narrative of one of the WNBA's most talked about seasons. The most crucial question is now. Oh, you believe that Cheryl Miller's statement sums up the league's current situation? Do you believe the WNBA is protecting its players sufficiently while permitting aggressive, competitive basketball? What consequences do you anticipate in the future? What impact will this whole situation have on Caitlin Clark, Alyssa Thomas, and the league? I sincerely want to know what basketball fans around the world think, so please let me know in the comments area below. Think about it. Your point of view could be featured in a future movie, and courteous discourse is what makes our community so amazing. Remember to hit the subscribe button and enable alerts if you love this discussion and would like more in-depth basketball analysis, original news, and the most significant articles about the WNBA, NBA greats, and Caitlin Clark. And never fail to upload again. We value your eye, appreciate you watching, and keep that in mind each night. We write basketball's history. This is where you will find out about the next chapter, which could be even more important. Oh, make sure nothing is missed in comparison to this one. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Subscribe and enable all notifications to make sure you don't miss anything. We'll see you after you click the video on the next one. Display.